All right, you guys, welcome to the Woman Masterclass. I am Kaylin Rakowski. For some of you who do not know me, I am a high priestess, a transformational coach, and I play in the shadow. I play in the unseen. And I'm here today to guide you through a deep dive and an exploration into womb work and exploring divine eros. And for some of you who are new to this and not quite sure what divine eros is, when we are speaking of that, we are talking about that pure desire, that life force, that Shakti, that energy that runs through us and everything that is. So today, I would really love for you guys to approach this class with an open mind, open heart, and realize that there is an energetic transmission behind my words. So, yes, listen with the conscious mind, try to take into what I'm saying, but also know that there is a deep remembrance and an activation to what I'm saying here today. So, first, I would just like to ask some of you who are here and live, who here is familiar with womb work, or how many of you feel like you currently have some form of connection with your womb? Okay, some of you are saying yes, some of you are saying no idea. Okay, kind of new to this. All right, perfect, beautiful. And I want you to know that wherever you're at on this journey is absolutely perfect. And there was a reason why your higher self guided you here today, why you felt the pull, the nudge, that curiosity to explore this call, to explore this class. So let me just start by like, why is this important and why are we even talking about this? So the sacred feminine knows that her body in itself is a temple. She knows she is the most sacred thing on this planet. And as a feminine essence being, your power channel is cultivated through the womb, heart, third eye connection. Okay. This is where you have these different power centers and channels for your intuition, for your gifting. Okay. For your certain essence and expression to really be either expressed in the world, or this is the way that you receive information from God, from source, from your own higher self, your guides, etc. And so many spiritual teachings talk about like ascending into the higher states, right? We're always trying to leave the body. And I think that can be great in the beginning. However, there comes a point where your true magic, your true gifting, your true power, your essence is found in the descension. It's found when you begin to drop down into the body, into the womb, into the innate wisdom of the body, of the blood, of the bones. And it's when you actually begin to focus on the descension and dropping into the womb, into the body, right? Into your own cauldron of creation, that you can begin to unlock your own soul codex, that unique blueprint, those gifts, right? The medicine, those unique demographics that you came here to be and that you've had with you since birth. So I want you to understand that it's not even so much about becoming something different or me teaching you something new. It's about activating this deep remembrance and reclamation in the body. It's waking up the dormant DNA, the templates, the codes that have been preordained for you since before birth. Okay. So, what you need to understand is that your womb is actually your most powerful portal way. And it's through your womb that you actually have a direct connection to source or to God. And this is actually your ability to birth and to be a bridge between the physical and the non-physical realms. So this is literally through your womb, you tap into your power as a creatrix. You bring your desires from the non-physical to the physical. Just like you birth a baby through this, you also have the ability to birth and to create through this just magnificent portal way. So I think where I want to start is just to understand that your sexuality, your sensuality, and your femininity has been so heavily demonized because Women are taught that sex is dirty, that pleasure is wrong, that our bodies are something to be ashamed of. And it's this heavy sense of shame that keeps us in fear, and it keeps us under control, and it keeps us completely disconnected from our power and from our divinity. So I want you to understand that sexuality and spirituality are intrinsically connected. Okay. When I first heard this, I was like, there's no way in hell. But there's a reason that we are taught that they are separate and that our sexuality is something bad or dirty, because it really is the seat of your power. This is where you really begin to reclaim your sovereignty. Okay. So it's remembering and reclaiming that your womb space is the channel, is the portal way into your deepest desires, into the reclamation of your essence. So today, my invitation for you and for all women is a return to truth, a reclamation of their power, and this just deep connection to God and to yourself. And to embody your feminine essence is to live a truly orgasmic life. Okay. Like when you're in your bliss, when you're in flow, and you're just truly magnetic and turned on by life. And it's almost like, excuse me, like you're seducing the universe. And the ancients knew this, and they knew that the most potent frequency to create your dreams were these highly ecstatic states, right? The sexual energy is that creative energy, right? It's that creatric energy. So the ancients would actually undergo practices and rituals to amplify and harness this energy. Some of you may be familiar with sex magic, with tantra, with pleasure practice, etc. Like there's many different forms that this can take place, but it's this understanding of cultivating this divine eros, that pleasure, that life force, so that we can create, heal, ascend, receive information, and to deepen your connection to self, to the divine, and to open yourself up to these higher levels of consciousness and guidance. They knew that through using this energy, through using their sexuality, that they could actually reach enlightenment. Okay. So to understand these principles, you first have to understand that most of society is doing it backwards, or is doing it completely wrong, and believes that our orgasms, that our pleasure should just be used, for this quick buildup of pleasure in the genitals, where we have this explosion, we have this climax, there's this big release of energy that actually normally happens through our lower chakras, and then it's followed by a contraction. Right? You have this big, intense, quick thing of pleasure, and then we contract, and then it's over. In Tantra, we call these peak orgasms. Not that these don't feel good, but what I'm telling you is that there is something so much more to experience. There's something so much deeper. So instead of having these sharp 5-15 seconds orgasms and then have them be over, there's so much more that we have access to. And but so many of us are sleeping or even unaware to that, because this is typically what's modeled in today's society. This is what's modeled in porn. This is probably the relationships or the sexual relationships that you've experienced in the past, which more times than not is what is closing down women to being in that state of openness, receptiveness, or even just pure desire to explore their sexuality. So what I'm hoping by today is that when we develop these pleasure practices and we can begin to use them as a sense of ritual, as a sense of ceremony, that we're actually beginning to play with something called valley orgasms. Okay. So actually what ends up happening is we're doing less, but we're being more, right? And isn't that kind of the nature of the feminine? So it's this return to our magnetism, to our yin, and to our essence. And through these valley orgasms, what we're doing is we allow the pleasure or the sensation to actually begin moving up through our womb, through our solar plexus, through our hearts, right through our throat, through our third eye, our crown chakra, our soul chakra, excuse me. And it's by focusing this energy or directing this energy downwards and upwards, it begins to amplify and draw it inwards and upwards, right? It's like we get to play and move this energy through the body. And this is done through breath, through surrender, and through intention. And as we begin to explore and move this divine eros, that desire, that life force through the body, we actually have this ability where it's not that, how do I want to put this? It's not, as we move the energy, it's not trying to have like a quick climax be the end goal, but it's how much pleasure, how can I live in this orgasmic state? And this is how we actually return our body to our bliss and to our essence. And from a trauma lens, for me, what I've noticed in myself and in my clients is that when we allow this pleasure to move through our bodies and get our bodies used to being in these orgasmic states, we actually begin to open up pockets of information in the body, whether this be stored trauma, whether this be imprints, whether this be, parts of your essence, your gifting, they begin to become unlocked through cultivating these pleasure pathways. So it's like these states and these practices begin to open up our channels of receptivity, creativity, surrender, and our ability to be deeply connected to God and to your soul, and to feel these deep levels of healing, ascension, and connection. So it's like, as we lean into our pleasure, as we lean into just being an orgasmic man or woman, we open up the portalways between you and the inner planes, between you and your intuition, between you, God, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. So it's not about, where we're chasing or forcing and like, oh, I'm just trying to be in my pleasure. I'm just trying to be, get an orgasm. Like that's how most people are doing it. But it's about moving into state of surrender, into allowing, into inviting, where you don't have to have an orgasm, but you focus on being orgasmic, like expanding the pleasure capacity in the body. And this is the most potent and magnetic frequency to be in, to actually become a creator of your life and to bring your desires from the physical, or I'm sorry, from the non-physical, from the spiritual realm down into the physical. Okay. So, and this is really how it begins to feel to lead with the feminine, and from your pleasure and from your desire to use your sexuality and your sexual power as a doorway to the divine. Okay. And, some of you who know me, some of you are new to my world, but I am a somatic and trauma practitioner. So I want to invite in also a different perspective or lens on this from the somatic perspective, or, just from like a body-based or trauma lens. Now, when you begin to cultivate these pleasure practices, you actually are regulating the nervous system. And when you are expanding the pleasure in your body or actually having these deep cervical orgasms, you have the potential to completely reset the nervous system. Because if you think about it, the mind goes aside, right? You bring yourself into the present moment. You're letting go of the ego. And this has the potentiality to be a full mindset and body energetic recalibration. Okay. And there's actually been studies that have shown that these pleasure practices are a deeper form of meditation, because we clear our mind, we calm our nervous system while increasing the sense of self-love, of connection, right? Of that oneness, where, people literally when you get really deep into tantra and really deep into, moving, like I said, the energy through the body and opening up those portal ways to the divine, people literally have described like having these ecstatic states where they feel like they're almost like tripping, where they feel like they've done plant medicine, where they feel like they've done ayahuasca. And this is literally the power of cultivating this energy. Okay. Because, like I said, it's going to completely dissolve the ego. It's going to drop you into the present moment. And orgasms are about creating pleasure and just allowing that pleasure to move and to expand through the body. And it's this movement and expansion that actually invites in the divine feminine, that invites in your intuition, right? It takes you out of the mind and it drops you into the most primal parts of your body, of your intuition, of your truth. And this really results in an energetic shift where the body is embodying surrender. It's opening up to deep levels of receptivity. And it's teaching the body, it's teaching the nervous system that surrender is a safe place to be in, and allows you to open up these channels of receptivity, which I will say every single woman that I work with comes to me, and one of the biggest blocks that I see is their ability to receive. Feminine essence beings suck at receiving. Like, think about, how do you receive a compliment? If I were to tell you, God, you're so gorgeous, how would you respond right now? Would you say thank you, or would you say, oh, this old thing, got it at Target a few years, you know what I mean? Like, I see this all the time. So it's learning that it's safe to surrender. It's learning that it's safe to open ourselves up, our to receive. And it's funny because our vagus nerve, I'm not going to get too much into like this part of it, but I will just say, like, our vagus nerve is like the reservoir for the nervous system. And how this works is that 20% is actually the mind sending down to the body. 80% is the body sending information to the mind. So it's like through these practices that we begin to teach our nervous system, or teach our minds, I should say, that it's safe to surrender. It's safe to be in receptivity. It's safe to be in this state of allowance. It's safe to be in the feminine. And when we do this, we're actually retrieving information, those codes, those giftings, right? Like I said, that soul codex that lives in the body, we're allowing for that information, those doorways to be open and sent up into the conscious mind, where we can step more into our power as a creator. And if you think about this, you guys, like, the most intense orgasm that you've ever had, you're also in the deepest surrender and openness to receive, right? So it's like this heart womb, everything is just open. And when everything is open and you're in the state of openness, allowance, surrender, you are so deeply connected to the divine. You are so deeply connected to your higher self, to your essence. So through these practices, we learn how to surrender and to receive through all areas in our life. We're holistic beings. So how you are in one way, you are in everything. So cultivating these practices teach us how to lean more into our pleasure, right? Like, your pleasure practice will equal your pleasure capacity in your life. Okay. So this is all about like amplifying this pleasure in the body, expanding our capacity to be in and to sit with pleasure. And so many of us don't feel safe here. We don't feel safe in receptivity. We don't feel safe in surrender, right? We think the answer is bigger, more, force, control. And this is such a toxic masculine paradigm to be operating in. And if you are here to be a feminine leader, then you have to come home into the feminine essence. There is a different way. And the more that we can cultivate this practice, it teaches us to hold pleasure in our lives, in our relationships, in our business. This is an extremely powerful practice. And this is why I say, like, pleasure and purpose go hand in hand, because if it doesn't start in the body, then it cannot make its way into your physical reality. It just won't happen. And as you start these practices, just begin to ride the wave. Surf the wave of your pleasure. Lean into it, breathe into it, observe where in the body you feel that. How does that feel right now? And can you surrender to that a little bit more? So, like right now, how aroused do you feel on a scale to 1 to 10? Can you just close your eyes and feel into that? Can you feel pleasure anywhere in the body? Where in your body do you feel that? How does it feel? And through breath, can you move it through the body? Can you consciously move it around? And knowing that, like through breath, through sound, you can begin to intensify this movement just by drawing awareness to it, feeling it. Can I move it up into my heart? Can I move it to my third eye? Can I move it down into my legs? And it's like the more that you can draw awareness to it, the more delicious it gets to be and move to all these areas of the body. Okay. So this next portion that we're going to move into is really talking about womb healing. And how we're going to do this is I'm going to do a 1-part introductory. And the second part, I'm actually going to lead you through an energetic womb clearing and healing. So, what I want you guys to understand is that the womb is the origin of all life. Like, she is the creatrix. And the womb space is the mirror of the cosmic mother, of earth womb, of the feminine. You could almost think of her like a cauldron, okay? And the womb is where heaven and earth meet to birth new worlds, right? This is the place of gestation, to create, to receive, to birth. And I want you to think that your womb is meant to be your portal way into divine co-creation, right? Like I said, this is your cauldron. This is your place of sovereignty. This is your place of magic. So the first step to know is that you have complete sovereignty over your womb. You are the head mistress of this domain, and you decide what energies you choose to invite in and what has to leave. There is no proper initiation or guidance into the feminine arts and into the energetics of the womb. And that's why so many of us are walking around with these energetic imprints or cords that are truly not our own. Right? Like, how many of you grew up and had someone teach you about the sovereignty, the sacredness of the womb? Right? Like, fucking no one. And this is the problem. But these imprints and this energy live in the womb, whether this be from sex, even if this was non-penetrative, any exchange of the sexual energy leaves imprints, DNAs, traumas, beliefs, etc. And this creates a lot of energy. Like, this creates links and cords that just begin to siphon our power of the womb, of our essence, right? Of our connection to God, of our own desires. So this really happens when we do not use discernment and we just give our power away. We give our bodies away. We then create these energetic loops or imprints in the body. So I will say too, this also can be passed down through your ancestral lines. 13 generations of trauma and imprints live in your womb space right now today. So think about how much energy, how much trauma, how many imprints are just in the body that were never yours or that you never experienced, but are completely running the show, or how you perceive your body, your sexuality, your power. Okay. So I want you to think about every time that you're engaging in sex or engaging in a sexual exchange, whether you were making out with somebody or you were doing anything else physically or energetically, anytime you were intimate, that you were taking on that person's life force, you were taking on that person's energy, you were taking on that person's trauma, their DNA. And so many women don't realize this. And I feel that if we did, we would approach our bodies, our temples in such a different way. Like, I don't fucking let everybody or just anybody into my sacred space, into my temple. Okay. So essentially, there's this aspect of energy that you're taking on that's not your own. Sex is an energetic exchange, right? And think about even like parallel lives, past lives, your ancestral lineages. Think about all the women in your bloodline and what they've experienced. Birth, abortion, miscarriage, right? So much is stored in your womb. And this is why we reclaim womb sovereignty.